Good evening, my friends. Are you here for another spooky story? Then come on in. Settle in now, for tonight I have quite the tale to tell. Are you ready? Good. Then let us begin. You have just awakened from a deep sleep. The room is still dark, and you're still warm from having been curled up beneath your nest of cozy blankets. But something seems strange. You can't put your finger on it, but you feel that something feels off. You try to go back to sleep, letting your dreams slowly creep back in to take you away, when you remember something you read online the night before. If you awaken between the hours of 1 and 3 in the morning, then something or someone might be watching you. Of course, it's up to you to decide whether such a thing is an urban legend, a mere creepypasta, or not. But you can always check it out to see for yourself. Maybe your instincts are on the same wavelength as video game mechanics. You can't sleep if there are monsters nearby. So pull up those covers, folks, and listen well to Tale of a Cat Tale. I was very young when this story occurred. Maybe about 4 or 5 years old. This was years before we built my mother's spooky activity-infested house, so we were still living in a used single-wide mobile home. Now, I'm not quite sure which incident could be considered my first paranormal experience, as I have had so many weird things happen to me throughout my life that it is hard to put a timeline to some of them. After thinking long and hard about it, I would say this was likely the first creepy moment that I remember experiencing. Whether it was paranormal or not, you be the judge. This was very late one night. At the time, my bed was a waterbed. Sure, it meant I could wake up rolled into a corner and half sandwiched between one of the rubber-backed boards and giant water bottle of a mattress itself. I slept like a contortionist as a kid. Trust me when I say I could wind up in some very odd positions in my sleep. But man, that thing was always so warm. I actually kind of miss it, because now I look like a blanket dragon when I go to sleep. Whole nest made out of fleece and microfiber, with an electric blanket shoved somewhere in there at times. Well, my mother was also pretty reptilian, cold-blooded like myself. She was a bit better with the cold weather, being older than me and having gotten used to it, but she never really cared for temperatures less than 70 degrees Fahrenheit for the longest time. This meant that sometimes she would crawl into my bed to sleep with me, since it was the warmest place in the trailer. This was one of those nights. Ever since I was very young, I had a habit of waking up right before something happened. This didn't stop me from going right back to sleep after my alarm clock came on and was subsequently shut off, but it still happened. In fact, this sort of sixth sense has been so powerful that, on the couple of occasions where I slept through something major, an attempted break-in or a bad storm, I honestly figured that it meant I wasn't supposed to have experienced whatever it was that I missed. This night, I woke up, as usual. The room was dark, all save for the tiny warmth of the nightlight at the top of my bed, which allowed me to see where I was going if I got up during the night. Well, I didn't need the bathroom, and I wasn't thirsty, so I figured I would just go back to sleep as usual. Being a little bit too hot from having both my mother lying next to me and sleeping on a very warm waterbed, I decided I would rest my feet on the baseboard of the bed for a bit. I lay there, chilling my toes, my thoughts wrapped up in trying to remember bits of the dream I came out of, when I felt something brush against my feet. Normally, most kids would have been freaking out at this point and start thinking, "Oh my god, no, the boogeyman's done gone and grabbed my toes." But not me. Mostly because I was more confused than anything. I knew what had brushed my feet. There was no mistaking it. It had been a cat's tail. It came from the left side, passed over the soles of my feet, then turned around and did it again. This time, doing that quirky little shake some cats do when they're really happy and know they're about to get the attention they want, usually after they've made you chase after them for a bit, meowing piteously and all that jazz. At the time, though, we didn't have an indoor cat. We wouldn't for 8 more years. But we did have a cat that lived outside. And this was before coyotes came into the area during the late 90s, and their population exploded, so no one could keep small outdoor pets around anymore. I wondered how the cat had gotten in, and knew my mother would not be happy about him getting inside, but I wasn't about to wake her up. Besides, why not let him sleep inside? It might have been only mildly chilly outside, but it was probably better than curling up with the dogs next to the water heater under the trailer. Well, the next morning, I got up and looked around for my kitty, but he wasn't there. I figured my mother had already found him and shooed him back outside, but I'd ask her about it anyways. I walked into the living room to find the outside door open with the glass storm door still pulled to, where the cat happily trotted over and stood up, paws on the door, wanting me to come out and play. Since my parents were both still in the house, I brought up the incident from the night before, and they both looked at me strangely. Apparently, my cat had been outside all night. To say I was confused was putting it mildly. My mother suggested that maybe what I felt was a rat's tail, and decided she needed to put down some traps. This was the country, folks. You had a mouse or a rat find its way inside your house at least once every few years, and you were just thankful it wasn't a snake instead. But I knew better. Rats' tails were more like a stick rather than the furry brush that went across my feet that night, and I told my mother so. Cue 5-year-old me looking at somebody who hadn't just had a creepy experience, like she was the crazy one. Fast forward a couple of days. As I've said before, as long as we had that trailer, we had pets, and those cats and dogs liked to bed down underneath the trailer near the water heater where it was nice and warm. Sometimes, however, the water heater needed to be worked on, so my father or mother would open the bottom cabinet next to the bathtub and make adjustments to the pipes there. Originally, there'd been a lot of linoleum there, but most of it had been peeled back and cut away by the trailer's original owners. There was still some floor left, but of course, there was quite a bit chalked out with some tiles and boards put back there to keep out climbing animals. Well, I awoke that morning to find that not only had those tiles been moved outward, but there was a big hole in the little hallway floor. Apparently, my mother wanted to get some work done under the trailer, but, for whatever reason, she happened to hear a faint meowing. Well, one thing led to another, and the only way to get down to where they were was through either a crawlspace hatch in the floor or one they cut themselves. I can't really remember. What I do remember is my father reaching down and fishing up what my mother was handing to him, and her yelling, "Don't let her see that," at some point. This next part is a bit sad, so please, move along to the timestamp I am providing on the screen if you don't want to hear it. Well, the meowing my mother heard turned out to be 3 very small kittens, only about a week or 2 from having been newborns. Apparently, some stray cat had gotten through some of the insulated partitions my mother had put up the year before to make things warm both in the trailer and around where the dogs like to sleep. It took her a while to get through without getting both herself and the babies covered in pink fiberglass particles, but she finally did. The kittens were very frail, and it looked like the mother hadn't been around for a few days. On top of that, it didn't appear to be the only litter that Cat had there, for in the dirt, down from where the kittens were cuddled, lay a very old, dried leg of a kitten. Now, yeah, I know some cats can have mental disorders and wind up eating their young, or a tomcat might kill young babies, but it was just strange the way it looked. Not quite fossilized, but it had been down there for a very long time, and my mother couldn't find any other remains. I know my dogs couldn't have done it either, because where it was, none of them could get to it, and they were also both incredibly gentle and patient around both cats and kittens. We kept the kittens overnight, but one, sadly, didn't make it. The other 2, however, went off to live with a co-worker of my mother's, who had just had a cat that recently had a small litter. To my knowledge, they both wound up living and going off to live with 2 of my mother's other co-workers once they got old enough. Before anyone asks, no, the kittens did not belong to my cat. He had been neutered a couple years before. The real mother cat was never seen again, or before, for that matter. I'm assuming she just came by long enough to have her kittens and then run off again. I'm not sure if something got her, she got hit by a car, or died from some sort of feline disease. There were a few houses in the area, so it's possible she could have belonged at one of them. But once she left, she never came back. My parents, who fixed the insulation that had been torn up, could attest to that. I suppose she could have crawled up in the trailer through the opening by the water heater, but that would have meant she would have had to open the bathroom cabinet door and the bathroom door to get through, as well as closing said bathroom door on her way back out. So, is it possible that the mother cat came to tell me about her surviving kittens, and my mentioning something to my parents made them check and find her babies before it was too late for all of them? I would like to think so. I just know that, whenever I let my feet dangle off the bed again after that night, I never felt another cattail brush by them from another phantom cat. And that's all for tonight, my friends. What do you think was the source of the phantom cat's tale? Be sure to leave your theory in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell too. That way, you can catch your latest spooky fix the moment it comes out. And head on over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/phantasmalpoppy. I want to be able to do these stories for you folks more often, so helping me out means I'll get to do just that. Thanks a bunch. Good night, and see you all real soon.